So before I get into this, I am going to be fully transparent. Yes, I live in California, and Magic Mountain is one of my home parks. Yes, we just had our coaster canceled. I'm pretty unhappy that a coaster that would have been a pretty good fit at our park is going to Cedar Point, and they're now sister parks. Full transparency. Now let's get into why Siren's Curse never should have happened. So, obviously this is happening because the new chain sees what is going on with Top Thrill 2. They know Zamperla is not equipped to get that thing running. So they want something that's going to be a cheap distraction for at least a year so that they can say, hey, here's our new coaster, being like, here's Siren's Curse, that's our new coaster. And they can be using that to deflect people thinking about Top Thrill 2, when there's no way they're going to deflect people thinking about it. They've got that massive spike right there. They've got that massive top hat. There's no way they're going to have people not thinking about that thing. So it fails as a cheap distraction. What about as a spot in Cedar Point's lineup? Well, what is a tilt coaster sensation going to be an improved version of? It's a dive coaster. It's a dive coaster. Yeah, I think the tilt coaster version is better than the dive coaster version where the track tilts. But at the end of the day, it's still a dive coaster. They already have Valravin at Cedar Point. So there are several parks in the chain that do not have a dive coaster or something like that, because I am going to say that for the sake of this comparison, yes, Hang Time can count as a dive coaster, but you've got several parks in the chain that do not have anything like a dive coaster that this would have been a great fit at and like it was originally slated for Six Flags Mexico, and that park doesn't even have a third major coaster. They only have a top two, and then it goes to free spins and SLCs and boomerangs after their top two. So that's definitely where it would have been the best fit, would be to round out their lineup to give them an actual top three. But if it couldn't go there because of approval, send it to a park like Over Texas, or call me biased here, but Magic Mountain. We don't have a dive coaster. Send it to us. Or if the new chain was like, hey, we want to, and I mentioned Over Texas just to prove that I'm not just saying this as a Californian and a Magic Mountain fangirl, because guess what? I literally am illegal in the state of Texas, pretty much. So, like, me saying, hey, that would be a good fit at Over Texas, that's me actually analyzing the parks lineup and saying, hey, a ride like that would be a good fit there. So, lineup-wise, we've gone about why it's not a good fit for Cedar Point. Now, this is why the Cedar Point fans should not be happy about it. So this is obviously a coaster that was purchased by Salim Basoul off of a failed project in Europe, because it was supposed to go to Energylandia originally. And then it was purchased by Salim Basoul and was being stored at Six Flags Mexico, and that's where they were looking to build it. But they couldn't get the approval to build it, so they had to send it somewhere else. But the fact that they chose Cedar Point Cedar Point fans, what you were not wanting to happen with this merger is you were not wanting to have your park become Six Flags over Lake Erie. And I mean, you're literally getting a Salim Basoul coaster, and you're getting all excited about it because, hey, it's a new coaster. How did the last pair of hand-me-down coasters from overseas that Salim Basul purchased go, might I ask? So, like, we have Georgia Surfer and Flash at Great Adventure. Georgia Surfer at Over Georgia and Flash at Great Adventure. Those are the last two Salim Basul hand-me-downs from overseas from a park that got canceled. So, what's the track record of Salim Basul purchasing hand-me-down coasters from overseas? I'll put it this way, it's about the same track record that Top Thrill 2 has. So, how do you think it will look for Cedar Point if having another Salim Basul hand-me-down coaster from overseas goes the same way that Georgia Surfer and Flash Vertical Velocity have gone? How do you think that reflects on your park to have that on top of Top Thrill 2? And I make that point to make this clear. This isn't just a Magic Mountain fangirl who is unhappy about the fact that one of her home parks was supposed to get a new coaster and it got canceled, and now that with the merger, that park and Cedar Point are in the same chain, and Cedar Point got a new coaster that would have been a good fit at Magic Mountain, but is sort of redundant in Cedar Point's lineup. It's not just that. There's issues that are a lot more pertinent that I have about this that are actually with me being concerned about Cedar Point having the best interests of that park in mind.